Welcome. Gio and I are here today with Chiko Abengowe. And Chiko, I think I met you first at the GWA conference in DC. And I was like, I'm sorry, how many locations do you have? Where have you been? And Gio said he invited you onto the podcast. He's like, do you know this guy? And I was like, no, I can't wait to hear your story. You sort of fly under the radar. You have how many locations?
We have 20 locations.
Right, 20. Okay. So I can't wait to hear the full story. Gio, can we just dive in with
Just jump in,
tell
jump right
us
in.
your life story, Chico? What did you do before this, and how did you get into? Do you call it co-working? What do you call your spaces?
Co-working, executive suites,
Yeah.
pretty much same thing.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, just to kind of answer your question, basically, I started as an entrepreneur looking for space for my first company. So I used to work in the staffing industry for about 4 years. I was a recruiter at a healthcare staffing agency, and I was recruiting nurses and staffing them at like home
Ah,
healthcare
okay.
organizations and hospitals and things like that. So after about 4 years doing that, I was like, you know what? I want to start my own business. So I jumped out and started my own staffing agency. But one of the things that I was looking for when I got started was an affordable office space. And I ran into this situation where there was a landlord basically trying out co-working and executive suites. And I rented a space there. And then I ended up basically helping the landlord fill up and
Let me show you how to do this, guy, buddy.
yeah, helping the landlord fill up. And then from there, I just kind of like dived into the co-working space pretty much and asked him if I can run his space. And then he said, okay, but then he wasn't interested in expanding. So I just started my own company, Perfect Office, pretty much doing that.
Okay, and what year was the first with the space with the landlord?
So when I first started, my first company was in 2012, December, but I launched the office space company in 2014.
Wow, 20 locations in 10 years.
Yeah, so we'll be 10 years next month. Yeah, August 14th.
Okay, and then yeah, tell us where are you located geographically, and then what is your typical footprint?
So geographically, we're in the DMV area. So we have about 18 locations in Maryland and then two in Virginia. And we have a third in Virginia that's coming later on this year, but two in Virginia right now.
Okay, I'm gonna let Gio go. I have many questions, Gio. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, no, I think one of the most interesting parts is your business model, right? Is it's a little not right down the middle of the fairway, right? Typically it's mainly business professional services, and you kind of veer into some more of the beauty and alternative type of uses. You kind of want to talk about your business model and kind of how it's evolved and who your target audience really is.
No, definitely. Let me jump right into that. And then to answer your question earlier, Jamie, our typical footprint is about 15,000 square feet and about 50 to 60 private offices. So our smallest location is about 40 private offices, and our largest location is about 120 private offices at one location. But we cater to the entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur looking for affordable, professional, and flexible office space, that's pretty much what we cater to. So an entrepreneur can be a hairstylist, a makeup artist, a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant. It's just a mix. If you walk into any of our locations, we like to say you can pretty much get everything done. You can go to church, you can get your hair cut, you can get your lashes done, you can, see an accountant, you can get a therapist, you can pretty much do anything and everything at any of our locations, pretty much.
It's pretty incredible. I've been in a couple of them, Jamie, and it's amazing to see the offering and to just see the names on the doors and everything else as you go through and just see it at work.
Yep.
Okay.
Jamie's like, what's my next question? She does
Okay.
this, right?
No, I was just waiting to
chance.
make sure it's my turn. Okay. So do you still run your staffing company?
Yes, I still do. I still run my staffing company, and I actually have another business too that I run, a property management company.
Wait,
But
what?
Perfect Office is where I spend most of my time.
Okay, got it. Okay, tell us about the genesis of the property management company.
So basically the staffing company, I started it and I was looking for office space.
Yeah.
So after about a year with the staffing company, we built it to $400,000 in revenue. Then the second year, $1 million in revenue. So I wanted to help the landlord expand to multiple buildings, but they weren't really interested in servicing smaller entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And, because it's very high touch.
Yeah.
So
Very
they're like,
different
no,
from
exactly.
traditional. Mhm.
Then they said they weren't interested. So that's when I came up with the idea of Perfect Office. So I launched that company and I rented out one of the buildings that the landlord owned had been vacant for a couple of years and they didn't know really what to do with it. So I was like, hey, can I rent from you and then turn this into a co-working/executive suite? They were like, sure. So they were able to actually let me rent from them without having to go through in terms of putting down a security deposit, all
I
this
mean,
other
this
stuff.
guy's living the dream because of you.
Yeah. So we got a space from them. Our first two locations was with them.
Okay.
And then we ventured out and did our third location with someone else. But as I was growing those two businesses, I started acquiring investment properties. So when I got up to maybe about 5 investment properties, then it was hard for me to manage those two businesses and manage my investment property at the same time. So I started thinking, okay, if I'm having this issue, other people might be having this issue too as well. So that's when I started a property management company to manage my properties, but at the same time, manage other folks' properties as well. So we've grown that to we manage about 40 investment properties for just different entrepreneurs that are too busy to manage their own property.
Is that commercial property or residential property?
Residential.
Got it. Okay. Make no small plans. Okay. And so how did you do 20 locations in 10 years? That's an incredible pace. I mean, even just the logistics of getting that many leases signed, that many locations identified, construction done. Gio, am I right?
Yeah, it's
Pretty
a
intense.
feat for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we are really good at in terms of just the team, we do a really good job with selling the spaces. We have a competition around it. We have a bonus structure that just kind of motivates everyone to kind of be a salesperson in a way, and it works. We lease about 50 to 80 private offices on a monthly basis. So that kind of works for us. And plus, we're on the lower end in terms of most of our office spaces are anywhere between $500 to $1,000 a month.
Okay.
So I like to say we're like the Walmart of the industry in terms of we're very affordable and it works for us.
Okay, but Gio's background is one of your offices. It looks kind of fancy.
So that's something new that we're actually doing, which is called our flex offering, which basically what we do, we take one of the suites, because each location, we have about 60 suites.
Yep.
And not all of them are always rented out.
Yep.
About 80 to 90% of them are usually rented out. So we take one and then we have our designer, our flex manager go in, design it very well. We can either do an admin office or a beauty office or a podcast room or any other room, and then have folks rent it out on an hourly basis. So sometimes for those during business hours, we'll charge $10 an hour just to have the footprint come in.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, it's beautiful.
It is. So
what a great Zoom background if you're actually in the office.
Oh, yeah. People love it and they use it during the day, just get some work done. And a lot of folks that come into that space are flex spaces. What they end up doing is they're like, I want an office like this. Can I get an office? And then they realize how affordable and flexible the leases are. And then they just get their own private office and we can design it for them if they want us to. But most of our offices, we don't furnish it or design it. It's a clean slate for folks to just kind of, design it and make it what they want.
Okay. So they bring their own furniture. Is that part of how, talk to me about the Walmart of office space. How do you, what does that look like? What allows you to sort of play in that segment?
I think we so when we're going to a location, obviously when we have to build out with the landlord, we focus on just them providing us pretty much an empty office, 60 to 70 private offices. And we furnish the common area, so the front desk and everything. But other than that, we do not furnish unless the tenant says to furnish it for them, which then it's a premium.
It's an upgrade. Yep.
But 99% of our tenants, they want the room the way it is, so that way they can come in, paint it whatever they want, design it the way they want. And it's pretty cool because we kind of do something almost like an MTV Cribs where we knock on their door, they showcase their office, and we do a whole video, a whole series called Perfect Suites with them.
Like sort of showing off the individualization of what they're doing in the space.
Exactly. And then interview the entrepreneur and they tell a little bit about themselves.
Okay. But your spaces are staffed.
Yes. So we're staffed.
Yeah.
Yep. We have a front desk at all the locations, and then they're backed up with 2 levels of managers, membership managers and community managers.
Yep. Got it. But tell me, who's on the team that's getting all those leases done and all those build outs done?
Me? Me?
Okay. Do you sleep?
I sleep.
Gio, tell me, what you must have some insight into how this is happening.
Well, I spent enough
He's
time
being
with
a
him.
little opaque.
I spent enough time with him to know that he's got a lot of energy, and and he's extremely passionate. And he's got a team that's passionate. So I was able to tour with one of his staff members who was actually a nurse.
Okay.
And so it was really interesting just to hear her background and understand how passionate she was about being part of the team, and just her interaction with the clients in the space. I mean, she knew everybody. She was waving. And I mean, hospitality is so vital to what we get to do. And so it was just fun to watch. Look how chill he is, like his arm laid back, you know.
He's totally chill. I know. Okay. Are there more spaces in the pipeline? What is the current, economic climate challenging for new locations? I mean, because you're doing pretty dense build out. So are you doing good deals with landlords? Are they funding a lot of that build out for you?
Yeah, so all of my deals, I'm having the landlords fund 100% of it. So it's a turnkey deal. I'm not putting any
all of your locations.
All of my locations. So I don't take it unless it's a turnkey situation. And then I get rent abatement up front too as well.
How many months?
Well, it depends, but I try to negotiate between 8 to 12 months. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nice job.
Yeah.
Nice job.
No. And I think you asked the question earlier. I forget what the question was. I was going to dive into it for you.
I mean, I was just still trying to figure out how you have 20 locations in
yes,
years, mostly.
Yes. I think it's just with us. We have a really good competitive operation going on in terms of just like our team. We're very competitive. We like to have fun. Each month, there's bonuses that are paid out based on whoever sells the most offices. Each year, folks qualify to go on a team trip. So I've taken them everywhere in terms of St. Thomas, Miami, Las Vegas, California, all expense paid trips.
So you all go and celebrate
sales reward. The folks that qualify. So I think last trip that we all went to Orlando. I took 25 of them. We rented out a whole big old Airbnb. And when we went to the St. Thomas trip, it was like 26 of us. We all went to St. Thomas. We had a great time. So everything leads to like daily actions, and daily leases lead to a monthly bonus, lead to a yearly bonus. And I think it's just the gamification of it all works out for us, helps us to be able to lease out 50 to 80 offices every single month. So it helps with those leases that are ending anyway. Yeah. But most of our tenants, most of them stay. We have tenants that have been here for 10 years.
Incredible. That says a lot about your team and the experience and product market fit, all those things. Oh, I think go ahead.
And then I think the question you asked earlier is, do we have some in the pipeline? Yes.
Yes, I had remembered. I was like, oh, that's what I asked. And, interest rates, it's much harder to get a landlord to do a build out because they have to have access to that capital today. What are you seeing out there?
Well, I mean, yes, it's still hard, but I think what we're doing, I'm having multiple conversations. So it's just the landlords that are ready, we go with, and the landlords that are not ready, that are still scared, we say, okay, well, maybe we try back in a couple of years and see what happens. But we do have some in the pipeline. We have maybe about 3 to 4 in the pipeline to open, later on this year and next year. So
okay, and you're staying sort of geographically focused. You're sticking with
We're going up and we're going south.
Okay.
Let's just, yeah. But yeah.
How
Got
far
it.
south are you going?
How far south do I want to go?
Yeah. There, we'll start there.
Okay, how far south I want to go? Past Miami. And how far north do I want to go? Past New York.
There we
How
go.
west? How west do I want to go? California.
So the entire US is in play.
The entire US is in play. And I think we have a unique product in that when we started, and I didn't even know the industry in terms of when we started. But when we started, I went back and looked. I think we had about 16 Regis locations in the Maryland area, in the suburbs, not DC in the city. And since then, I think there's still 16 locations of Regis. So it just kind of lets us know that we're offering something different. And that's why I say, like, I feel like we're the Walmart of the industry in terms of just we're offering something different. I feel like Regis and other players in the market offer something more of on a higher end per se, and we cater to the everyday entrepreneur pretty much.
So let's go back to your upbringing. How did you become so entrepreneurial?
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible.
I mean, it's a long story, but pretty much the short story is that I was born in Nigeria and I grew up in Nigeria till I was about 7 years old. My dad was a pastor and my mom was a ministered with my dad, and they used to go to like different states and countries to just kind of minister. And when my dad came here for his studies, came to the US for his studies, he decided that he was gonna stay here. So he came in 1991. So we came over in 1993. And I've pretty much been here for 30 years. But during that period, my dad had like 3 jobs. So he would be doing ministry and working all the time pretty much. And my mom mostly stayed home and just kind of took care of us. And then she started working as a nurse, as a CNA, a nurse. And then my dad, at the age of 13, my dad caught cancer of the liver and passed away. So at 13, we went from, and mind you, it was a family of 5 kids, and then, my mom and my dad. So my mom was left with taking care of 5 kids at a $12, $15 an hour job. So at that point, I realized that, money is very important. Regardless of whether you're a good person or you're a bad person, you got to figure out the money game. And I would just I was reading and trying to figure out how can I help my mom in terms of just like being able to provide. And of course, at 13 years old, you can't provide, you can't do anything. So I subscribed to go to school, get good grades, graduate, and then get a good job, which at that time I just did. In high school, I graduated with 4.0 all 16 semesters in high school. Got the Bill and Melinda Gates Scholarship because my mom said, hey, if you don't get a scholarship, you're not going to college.
Not happening. Yeah.
So got the Bill Gates Scholarship, went to Towson University. And while I was there, did really, really well and graduated magna cum. I call it magna cum karate moves. So graduated there and then got a job working. And then I realized while I was working that I still wasn't making ends meet. And I was like, wow, okay, they said go to school, get good grades, graduate, and then get a good job. But I feel like I'm still living an average lifestyle. So what do I do now? So after just reading and just kind of searching, I just realized that entrepreneurship was the way for me. So at the age of 26, with $1,000 to my name, I quit my job and started my first business. And then that business led to me creating $1 million worth of business in the second year. And then I borrowed $10,000 from that business to start Perfect Office, which last year we did over $10 million. So, and it's exciting. It's been exciting.
Okay, so what do you do with do you have any free time? I mean, what do you do for fun other than build a
I
business?
do a lot of
I
stuff
know
for
that's
fun.
an answer. You enjoy what you do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do a lot of things for fun. I play basketball. I read. I do a lot of activities with my friends pretty much. Yeah. I go out, I dance. I write. I used to be a quote unquote rapper, It's a whole bunch of stuff that I do on free time, but you'd be surprised how much time you really have.
So I'm curious about, I guess the thought that runs through my mind when you talk about your story is even before you shared that you lost your dad, it's like, how do you figure out how to do all of this? I mean, you were young, you didn't really know anything. And now, you're doing construction, you're signing leases, you've got the staffing. I mean, did you have like what were sort of your models?
I mean, I think you can learn from anybody, but I do a lot of reading each night. I think I do about 2 hours of reading each night of something that I'm interested in.
Wow.
And you just be surprised when you read a lot, you research a lot,
Yeah.
things that you end up basically teaching yourself.
Yeah.
In a way. So when I was working at a job at the staffing agency, I just really paid attention. Like I would go in 2 hours early to work and leave 2 hours after. I mean, my manager would always kick me out of the office and say, hey, we're not paying you for this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm fine with it. I'm learning. I'm learning because I don't want to be trading my time for dollar for the next 20 years. Because I always think I read something in the book, like when you're working a job for 20 years, those amount of hours, if you can figure out a way to shorten those amount of, shorten the length of time, you still got to put in the hours. But I just thought in my head, okay, instead of putting in 8 hours a day, let me just put in 16 hours a day, whether in the office or out the office, and just learn this really, really quick and then go out and start it on my own. That's pretty much how I looked at it. So that helped with that. And then along the way, I thought I was going to be doing staffing the whole time, but along the way, I was like, okay, I figured that I just love solving problems. And for me, I had a really hard time finding an affordable office space. So I was like, okay, if I have this issue and I see how me finding an affordable office helped me with my first business, I think other entrepreneurs probably have the same issue. Let me see what happens. And then that's how I stumbled across the co-working space. And I love it. Yeah.
Okay. And then once you found the business, did you have like inspiration spaces that you followed? Like,
no. So the landlord had 20 offices. And so when I rented out a space, I was in there for about 6 months. And I noticed he told me, I was like, hey, Adam, you told me that when I rent this space, there's going to be other entrepreneurs that come in here regularly. But I've noticed the past 6 months, it's only me and 2 other guys.
We're the people, Adam.
Right. I was like, so what's going on? He's like,
Yeah.
well, we're having issues with getting folks in here. I was like, really? I was like, this seems like a easy.
It was such a perfect solution for you that you couldn't imagine like that it was hard to sell. Yeah.
Right. So I said, hey, can I help you? And he was like, yeah, you can help, but I don't have any money to pay.
Right.
I was like,
you could tell your friends, but yeah.
Yeah. So what I ended up doing is telling my friends and then posting online and also buying yard signs and putting it all over the city. And then next thing you know, 3 months later, he was full. And then he called me up to the office. He's like, hey, man, what did you do to fill up our location? I said, well, I just shared it with a couple friends and put out some yard signs. And so they gave me 10%.
That's your sales funnel.
Bro, that was my sales funnel. So they gave me 10% of the earnings. And I was like, and in my head, I was like, 10%.
Right. You're doing the math.
Right. So I was like, 10% means I don't have to pay any rent. And they have a couple buildings. What if I do this with 6 of their locations? I'll be pretty okay. So, but they said that they weren't interested in that. And at that point, I was like, maybe I can start this as a business. And then what I did, my first location, I just replicated what I saw in the location that I rented.
Yeah.
So, and I made a big mistake on my first location because I didn't realize that I didn't realize that I was taking the back portion of the building. And when mail would come, they didn't know where to deliver the mail. So a lot of my first initial tenants, they weren't able to receive mail. They were like, hey, Chiko, we've noticed that we haven't been getting any mail. Because the entrance was in the back of the building. So my first employee, I hired her just to stand outside and wait for the mailman to come, which was weird. But, we later figured that out.
Okay, that's fantastic.
That's incredible.
Okay, I'm glad to hear there are a few nuggets of craziness in this, like, otherwise pretty impressive story.
There's a lot.
So you had a reception desk, but somehow people came in through the back, and the mailman was like, "No, can't do."
The first space was a big space, but the landlord was only comfortable with me getting the bank part,
Okay.
26 offices. So he said, if you're able to replicate
Yeah.
what you did at our space, we'll give you the entire space, and then you will have a reception. You will have a
Got it.
actual front entrance, because he was holding that to possibly rent it out to somebody else.
Yeah. Sure. He's
Because
like, I'm not sure this is repeatable. Let's
exactly.
prove that first. That's so interesting. So even with that, you were able to be successful with that space. So did he build the 26 offices for you, or were those pre-existing?
So there used to be a tenant there, like a government contractor that worked there. So the offices were pretty much there. The only thing that he did was pretty much new paint and new carpet, and then we were ready to go.
Okay. How many square feet is your typical office?
Anywhere between 125 to about maybe 200 square feet.
For a one-person office?
And those are second generation, right? Those aren't new builds for you.
Even the new builds. So we don't do it by per person. We just do it by office. So anywhere between 125 to about 200 square feet. So some tenants would make that just their own office, and some tenants would have them and two other.
Sure.
Exactly. A team.
Yeah.
So we sell by office, not by desks or. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got to dive into this because I found this so interesting. So you mentioned you've got people doing hair and stuff in your space. You want to talk about the plumbing situation and kind of how you've gotten creative around that, rather having to, like, a salon suite space basically runs all kinds of plumbing into the building and the entire space in order to get the hair, basically
Stations.
the hair stations, right? Where do you wash your hair and everything else? You want to talk about
an
kind of how
expensive build out, right? Those are surprisingly really expensive to build out because of the plumbing.
Very expensive. So we stay away from that pretty much. So most of the tenants that rent with us that do hair, quote unquote, usually are doing natural hair, maybe braiding or things like that. And so they'll usually start off there, and then if they need something a little bit more complicated, they would upgrade to like maybe a Phoenix or a salon suite type situation. And some of the more creative ones have something called a portable sink bowl.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. A portable sink bowl, which I didn't even know anything about it. Some of the tenants introduced me to it. And it's just basically, I don't know how I could describe this, but pretty much it's a portable bowl where it actually runs water pretty much. And it takes water from one end and dumps it in the other end. And they take that out and dump it in what's that janitor's clock situation. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was crazy. So you can pump the water in and out of the sink, right? And that's what was crazy to me, that I was like, how it's, people get creative, right? I mean, I think that's ingenuity right there.
Yeah, and one of the tenants that started with us that way, she ended up getting so many clients that she ended up opening up her own space. And it's
amazing.
It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you just said it right there. I mean, you're obviously an entrepreneur, but part of it is your passion about people, which makes you so great, right? That's one of the things I loved about you most just in my conversation with you and hearing you interact with other people and you just said it right there in that comment, is you want these people to outgrow the space, right? And to be able to go do their own thing just the same way as you've been able to grow into your entrepreneurship. You want to talk about that passion that you've got for that?
No, I'm all about entrepreneurship because entrepreneurship helped me to be able to see in life what I wanted, which is, more opportunities, more, finance to be able to help, family, friends, and everybody else. So I think, giving people an opportunity or a platform where they can then take that and build is just amazing. So that's why now I spend most and majority of my time with Perfect Office, because I see it every day. The stories that I hear and the individuals that I see, and it's just amazing, to be able to you'll be surprised what just an affordable office space does for an individual's life. It helps them to be able to just, create the type of dream in the future that they want for themselves. So I've seen it multiple times, and I see it over and over and over and over. So we have over 1,500 units. So, and growing. So we see it all the time.
Chiko, I have a question. You talked about how you called, your landlord and you were like, hey, where are the other entrepreneurs? Because you said they'd be here and I'm sitting here by myself. Is it important for you to connect your members in that way? Is that kind of part of the culture of your spaces?
I think our members naturally connect, and I'll explain. So the way that they naturally connect is you're walking down the hall and you see that someone else is doing something different that you might need. So you introduce yourself, and next thing you know, you're getting your hair cut. Like my barber is literally right down the hallway. My accountant is literally right down the hallway, and my marketing person is literally right down the hallway. And if I'm feeling stressed, which, can happen sometimes, I can go get a massage down the hallway, so it's just pretty much, everything that you kind of need is in within the space, and folks love that.
Yeah. And I wonder if it happens more naturally because it's such a diverse group of, if not all accountants or, you know what I mean? All just like professional services. You got a really unique group of folks there. That's very cool. How did you find the GWA?
Oh, yeah. So while I was just building, and I would always Google, obviously, some of the top players, and I would read on a regular basis. And GWA just kept coming up in terms of an organization. So I was like, okay, let me look into this. So I looked into it. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I didn't know something like this existed. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to check it out. So I think it was last year I wanted to come, but that was the year that I took the entire team to one of the trips. So I was like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm there next year. So what happened was last year was in DC, which is
in your backyard.
Yep, our backyard. So I was like, you know what? I'm going. And then I brought 5 of my teammates with me. So that was pretty awesome. And I got a chance to experience the conference and learn a lot, meet some folks. And then the team was so excited about it. And that's where I met, you as well. And then the team was so excited about it. They're like, we got to go to the next one.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, because the next one is in Phoenix, but I did promise them the top performing 5 people will get a chance to go. So I've already bought 6 tickets for Phoenix, and we're going there. We're gonna identify our Airbnb, which is probably gonna be really nice, and then we'll be out there.
I love that. So Car Workplaces, you probably know them because they're in your market. They used to kind of do a similar thing with their team. It'd be a reward or like a little team retreat, and they'd come and spend an extra day and enjoy the conference together. And I always thought that was really great.
So actually, Chiko is going to be on the stage this year.
Okay, good. I was waiting. I was like, why does this guy needs to be on stage? Let's make that happen, Gio. All right.
It's happening. So we're working through the programming now to figure out where everyone will be and what days and all that fun stuff. So excited to get him up there and talking about some of that stuff.
I love it. Chiko, you have a great story.
Yeah, that should be exciting.
Yeah, no, it'll be great. And so where are your siblings? You said you had 4 other siblings.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, let's talk about it. So
therapy session. No.
So my siblings, so I have an older brother. So my older brother was pretty much my best friend in a way. And at 6 years old and 7 years old, we were always ambitious. We used to always, when my parents would say go to sleep, me and him would hide underneath the table and start talking about like things that we wanted to be or things that we wanted to do in the cars we wanted to drive. And things like that. So in 2012, actually, my older brother passed away, right? So when he passed away, it kind of made me realize that time is limited. And I had all these dreams. We had all these dreams that things that we wanted to do, but I just never did them. I was scared, So in 2012, I said, you know what? I cannot let this year pass by without actually starting a business. And that's what really honestly led me to stop making excuses at 26 and just said, hey, you know what? He didn't have the opportunity to continue to chase his dream, but I did. and I need to make something of it. And, you know, and pretty much that's kind of how it started. But then I have two other younger brothers and a sister, and they're all in this area. So they kind of live close by. So I get to see them regularly.
Have you tried the whole them working for you situation?
Oh, yes. Yes. You want me to tell you about that?
Yeah, I want to know all about that.
Okay, so the brother, right, the closest brother to me, he does basically, he does like IT help desk type situation. He used to work for the government. And so I needed that, of course, you know, I think that was our second location. And I was like, hey, it would be really good if you can come on the team and start helping us with everything IT related and help desk related. So he did. And after about a month, I fired him, actually. I fired him because he was coming into work late. You know, and it just didn't look good. It just didn't look good. But at dinner with my mom, family dinner, she was like, doesn't even make sense. How could you fire your own brother? It doesn't make sense. I was like, well, he's not performing. You know what I'm saying? I can't have everybody else show up to work at 9 o'clock and he's coming in at 12, you know? So I was like, and she was like, you have to figure out a way to hire him back. I was like, I'm not
Well, he
hiring.
gave up his government job for you.
So then I sat down. So we sat down and we had a conversation. I told her, hey, you know what I think would be best? Instead of you working for me, let's have a situation where you're working with me. How about this? Why don't you go start a business? I'll help you start it. And then you provide those services to us. And so that's what he did. We helped him get a business started. And then so he provides IT services for all of our locations. And I'm sure he's very happy. So yeah, that's what he does. Yeah. So I've tried that, Gio.
Okay, so you sort of like fed him the entrepreneurial gene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's doing good. He's doing good. He helps us with a lot of stuff. He attends all of our managers' meetings, even though he doesn't have to technically because he's a contractor, but
Yeah.
he helps in a big way, which helps me.
What platform do you use to manage your locations for billing and
No platforms. So we use a lot of different platforms for a lot of different things. For example, and I think sometimes when I get asked this question and I mention a platform and folks are like, never heard of that platform before. For example, we use a platform called a Zebo to collect rent. It's free for us and it's free for our tenants as well. So works for us. And we use spreadsheets. So just depending on what it is, we have like a platform that we kind of, a software that we kind of use.
Gio?
That was, man, there's so much good stuff. I mean, we can talk to you forever about all kinds of fun stuff.
We have to save a little bit for the stage.
So your mom, what would you say the top 3 things that she loves about you are?
The top 3 things that she loves about me?
Yeah.
That I always say yes to her, which hurts because the ask keeps getting bigger. But she would say that. She would also say that she loves the fact that I'm very ambitious. And what else? She likes the fact that I think the most important thing for her, I think she likes the fact that I took on my dad's role as for all intents and purposes, the father figure of the family, pretty much. Yeah, so I think those 3 things will probably be what she would say. But I think my mom still really doesn't understand what I do because she always tells me, hey, you're so smart. You wanted to be a doctor. You can still go back to school and be a doctor, right?
Oh my gosh, Mom.
And I'm just like, yeah, I know, but it's not something I'm interested in. And I really knew, I think when I think it was 4 years into my business, I remember when I think I was stressed because I couldn't figure out how to make payroll in time. And I think payroll at that time was like, I don't know, maybe like $30,000 or something like that. And she asked me, she was like, hey, you seem stressed. Is there any way I can help? I said, no. She said, what are you thinking about? I was like, I'm thinking about, payroll. I got to get that done this Wednesday so that folks can get paid on Friday. And then she was like, well, I can help. I was like, And I was like, no, it's okay. She was like, well, I mean, I have $500 that I can put towards it.
She just had no idea the
Yeah.
scale of, yeah.
Right. And I was just like, oh no, you'll be fine.
I'm
We'll
good,
be
mom. Yeah.
okay.
I'll work it out.
$500 is not gonna put a dent on 30,000 that I need right now. Yeah.
That is amazing. Jamie, I mean, I love your point of let's not squeeze it all out now. Let's save some of it for
No.
GWA. So you wanna jump in on one of your questions? I don't know. Let's see how creative you're gonna get this time.
I know. Well, I might ask my typical question. Okay, so you take the team to the conference and there's an after hours event with karaoke. What does the team sing? Or what does Chico sing?
I don't know. I
Do
love
you rap?
music.
Would you do it original?
I would I would probably no, maybe not an original. I would probably because no one would know it. I would probably play something that everybody would know and then maybe just sing along with that. But there's a lot of songs that I would probably I don't think I've ever done karaoke though. No, I have, but I don't have a karaoke song.
Okay, you don't have a go-to yet.
Yeah, I don't have to go to.
Okay. Okay, what do you do with the team for fun when you go on your award trips?
So, by the way, that's every month we do something because every month there's a top 5. So
Oh,
every
nice. So it's ongoing. It's not just a big annual thing. It's
Well, the annual one is the biggest one.
Yep.
That's the one that we go out of town and we take about 20 plus people and we get a huge Airbnb and then we do a whole bunch of stuff. But so that usually what we would do is we'll plan out. So we'll go for like 5 days. We'll get a really nice Airbnb. Then on like when we come in, based on your ranking, you get to pick your room. And then based on your ranking, it's either whether you get your own room or you have to share with an individual.
okay.
So we create a whole fun thing around that. Then we'll usually sometimes have a chef come in and cook a really big meal on 1 or 2 days. We always have the folks that like to stay up all night long. So we go out, we'll party.
Work
And
hard, play
then-
hard.
Yeah, work hard, play hard. And we plan out the whole 5 days jam packed with just different things that people can do. And then we just all do it and have some fun, take some pictures, do some videos, photo shoots, movies, skits, everything, So yeah. Some of the if you go on our social media, you'll probably see some of this crazy stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna start following you. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I literally can still remember when you were like, "Hey, at the conference, I'm Chico," and whatever you said. I was like, you're super. You were even memorable before I knew your story, and so I'm so glad you're connected. I'm so glad you found the GWA and decided to try a conference, and now you're all in and you're on stage. Your team's gonna be there cheering you on. So
Yeah, I'm excited.
good, and thanks for taking the time to do this.
Thank you both for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Until Phoenix, we'll see you there.
Yes.